Today I want to watch the trailer for Ten of Swords, the entire event by Jonathan Hickman, and I want to go over what that card actually means. Today I'm looking at one of my very favorite decks, Tarot Apocalypsis, and this is a deck put together by the prose of Kim Huggins. She's one of my very favorite tarot writers. She wrote the book Tarot 101. This deck is really cool. So she has her master's degree in mythology, and that's absolutely what attracts me to tarot in the first place, because I love mythology. I absolutely adore Joseph Campbell. If you've ever had the chance of checking out his series Masks of God, it goes through the historical perspectives of tons of mythology throughout Sumerian culture to now. So just to read from this article for a quick moment before we look at this trailer, Marvel has released the trailer for X-Men's Ten of Swords Creation, the kickoff to the first big crossover event in Jonathan Hickman's new Dawn of X era. As the trailer for Ten of Swords Creation reveals, this Ten of Swords event is going to reach all the way back to events Hickman has been seeding and growing since the House of X event series last fall, which effectively retconned and reinvented the entire X-Men mythos. Exactly how Ten of Swords will bring together lingering threads of House of X, Dawn of X remains to be seen, but this trailer certainly makes the event look fittingly epic. I'll say he didn't really retcon a ton of it. It's a new start. It's very different. I guess you could call it a retcon. That's fine. The whole thing with Moira and her, the many lives of Moira McTaggart. I guess that's a retcon. Now I can't look at her in any of the older books without saying she's the most powerful mutant. Or when I say not necessarily most powerful, but the most pivotal mutant. Everything at this point revolves around Moira and whether she's going to die or not. So let's check out this trailer. Pretty cool.
I am blind, but I would see. So let's see what the future holds, shall we? Judgment, finality, and irrevocable change. The Four of Wands, a baptism of blood. The Hanged Man, a sacrifice on the pyre of change. The Eight of Cups, disillusionment, abandonment. The Ten of Swords, betrayal and loss.
Well, I'll be honest, if that doesn't get you excited for the Ten of Swords, I don't know what will. I am also going to talk a little bit further about the tarot card itself, what that means. So, there's a lot of different meanings for different decks, and different people that author these decks have very different perspectives about what that means. This is a very different card. Usually and traditionally, looking at the Rider-Waite, it shows a man lying on his stomach with 10 swords shoved through his back. This one's a little bit different because it shows a brave warrior holding a sword in his hand. This is an incredible card. I love this. He's on his knees. He's bloody. He's bleeding. There are 9 swords shoved through his back while he's still holding onto his own sword that's covered with blood also. There's a mystical woman on a horse, and she is pulling his astral body from him out of his dying form, and there are bodies lying everywhere that he has slain. The warrior is rising from the ashes. This is a fantastic card. This is a fantastic deck. I love Kim Huggins so much. My two favorite decks ever made were by Kim Huggins. And so let me read Revelation, Ten of Swords, Crisis Point, Breakdown. This is about the snapping of the mind, the breaking down of intellectual constructs, ideas, and beliefs. This is about a painful end, something taken to its logical conclusion. Welcoming destruction, stripping down conceptions and perceptions, questioning everything. The fragmented mind destroyed, delusions broken down, and the death of the ego. Here at the end of all logic and reason, in the battlefield of the mind, night has fallen. As a warrior, you walk the bloody blade road, and with every cutting away and stripping down, the pain increases, yet becomes clearer. With every moment of breakdown, confusion sloths away. There is no avoidance possible, for nothing that is born can remain unchanged and unchallenged, and the years of the mind cause it to take on burdens and construct secure worlds that must eventually burn. Like the sacking of a city, the mind must be pillaged. Like the body on the pyre, it must be incinerated in fire and blood. Like the sword and the warrior, it must be tested until it fails. For only in failure and the identification of weakness can strength be founded. I come to you, bloody one, on the field of raven fodder, astride great beasts that will consume you, shaking a spear and thundering the loud battle cry for all to hear. Here lies a god, to whom death came lovingly. Ignore not my outstretched hand, but embrace me as a lover. For on these cutting roads you can love tenderly your destruction and welcome your end. Let me take you as my lover, and we will pass the night in your burial mound there to welcome the new dawn with loud cries, rage, and a feast for the ravens. This is a little bit more about the mythology behind it, the technical aspects of what the numerology means in the Ten of Swords as well. These are the mysteries of the Ten of Swords. The treacherous journey of the sword suit is complete. Here we find the breaking point of the mind, when rational thought and state of mind move so far away from the sense of oneness and focus, they fragment, their sharpness turning inwards to create anguish, self-doubt, and disorder. What once cut through confusion to reveal truth, it now betrays itself. What once opened the way toward wisdom now sheds the feet of those who walk its path. In the Ten of Swords, we have reached the lowest point, with destruction and the certainty of endings, yet, much like the Tower, it presents an opportunity to begin anew. Here in the darkest moment of the breakdown, we are released from the fragmentary, harmful thought patterns that have shackled us. The Ten of Swords, while being a painful experience, is the process by which we destroy the constructs and thought patterns that hold us back, taking apart our most affectionately held beliefs and ideas and questioning everything to its core. In this stripping down of our conceptions, we enter a crisis point, the moment at which our minds snap and are freed. I'm going to stop there. These are my thoughts now. I'm moving from Kim Huggins' words to my own. In some decks, this card, the Ten of Swords, is called the Death of God. It is literally an idea of destroying that and killing away a part of yourself that you don't need anymore. It's stepping away from those things that have held you back. It's death. It's the actual death card. Where the death card in tarot is actually the rebirth card, technically. Continuing Kim Huggins' words. For many cultures, defeat on the battlefield is an unwelcome crisis point, a sign of failure. For most of us, death and destruction are the ultimate evils to be avoided. Not so for the Norse, for whom death on the battlefield was welcome as a good death. Those who have died this way were taken to the halls of Freya or Odin, where they feasted and prepared for the final battle of Ragnarok. Those sent to bring the fallen from the battlefield to Valhalla were the Valkyries, who allot death to men and govern victory. And they were depicted in the sagas and the skaldic poetry as battle maidens wearing helmets and blood-drenched chainmail tunics, light shining from their spears. Valkyries were often depicted as terrifying beings. In keeping with the experience of utter destruction, they are called wound giving Valkyries, and their mounts are described as feasting on the fodder of ravens. They are not just choosers of the slain, however. They are sometimes shown as playing an active role in the final breakdown of the self at death, as they not only devour the slain, but also prophesy death. In the Derajulu from the Nala saga, 12 Valkyries are witnessed prophesying the death of armies in a bloody fashion. They cross the quote-unquote web of man gray as armor with crimson weft. The warp of their weaving loom is made from human entrails, with heads for heddle weights and bloody spears as heddle rods. The Valkyries state, "With swords we will weave this web of battle," and they are described as weaving with drawn swords, their typically feminine work made brutal and warlike. In Anglo-Saxon glosses, the term given to Valkyries, Waelcraig, is equated with the Latin word for fury. The Greek Aaronites, the Cthulhu deities of vengeance. They also lend their names and their zeal for the death of warriors to a number of kennings that describe weapons in warfare, such as the Valkyrie sport as battle. This destruction of the self, created and administered by the Valkyries on the field of battle, gives way to a final aspect of the Ten of Swords: rebirth. From the darkness comes the dawn, and after destruction comes liberation. Scholars have commented that the capacity to be reborn seems to be most frequently associated with Valkyries. There are tales of a Valkyrie and her lover reborn 3 times, each time finding each other and loving one another anew. A Valkyrie granting a name to a nameless man, and a Valkyrie whose act of sati is seen as an act towards rebirth. There are instances in the sagas of dying or dead heroes falling in love with a Valkyrie who welcomes them into death. Helgi joins his Valkyrie lover for one night in his burial mound before riding to Valhalla, where she welcomes him. As such, warriors loving Valkyries is not the seduction of fate in order to change it, but the welcoming as a lover to his bride of inevitable destruction. Fantastic. A little bit of a mouthful there, but that is how detailed this deck is. Again, it is called Tarot Apocalypsis by Kim Huggins. It is one of my very favorite decks. It's very detailed. She goes through and gives probably about 12 sources there in the source material for that card. Highly recommend that deck, by the way. I don't know if I will highly recommend Ten of Swords by Teenie Howard and Jonathan Hickman quite yet. I know that I will recommend pretty much everything written by Benjamin Percy in that series. That's a guarantee. Let me know what you think. Do you want more Ten of Swords? It's coming, whether you like it or not. Get into your shop, support your local comic shop. You are the gateway into comics.